Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw! Listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the World Wrestling Federation developed a little bit of an attitude. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Man, wake up and die right. We're the new rockers.
Joe Giammatteo.
I was hoping that my identity would be concealed to protect my innocence.
Oh, boy. Sorry about that, buddy. Let me know whenever you've got a home wrecking situation on your hands and we'll try to fix it for you. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett, and we're going to examine WWE history one episode of Raw at a time. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on May 6th, 1996. This Raw was recorded at the Civic Auditorium in Sioux City, Iowa, and features Vince McMahon, Jerry the King Lawler, and a couple guests here and there on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then. Let's get into it. Tonight's Monday Night Raw was dedicated to the late Ray Stevens, who must have passed away right around this time. I am not an old enough wrestling fan to be able to, appreciate Ray Stevens, but from what I hear, he was one of the best. It's the guy that Flair looked up to. So, rest in peace there, I suppose. And just so no one thinks that this is going to be a classy tribute episode, we're going to go straight to an anonymous silhouette of someone that is titled ex-wife of former professional wrestler. She's there saying that Shawn Michaels is a homewrecker. Shawn Michaels ruined her marriage, her life, and she will tell us how it happened. After that very clickbaity intro, it's straight to our first match of the night. Marc Mero with Sable defeats the 1-2-3 Kid with the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase by pinfall in 9 minutes and 36 seconds. While the Kid is on his way down, we see that Hunter Hearst Helmsley is there. He's going to be joining commentary. He's got a gorgeous young woman on his arm, as always. We do not get a name for her. And then Marc Mero comes out to Sable's entrance music. How about that? It really wasn't. This was Marc Mero's original entrance music, but I'm pretty sure this is what they co-opted for Sable's entrance music. It's the sound of a wow.
Yep. A cougar.
Yeah. The cougar's call. That's what Marc Mero, the wild man, is coming out to. Sable is obviously the focus during the entrance, and then doubly so in the ring as Sable takes up the entire hard camera view while Marc Mero tries to get his poses in behind her and over her shoulder.
I could see her power bombing him now.
Pathetic. Last week at the free-for-all, Hunter interrupted a match that the Kid and Marc Mero had, giving Mero the pedigree, getting the victory for the 1-2-3 Kid. But here in this match, the Kid is going to be a little more focused. The Kid is working well once the bell rings, he's selling everything nicely for Mero. I wish the same could be said for Mero, as Superfly Little Richard is incrementally getting better as the weeks go by, but man, it is baby steps. But of course, as soon as I type that note, Mero tries his over-the-top rope splash to the Kid at the outside, but he gets the angle wrong, and it looks like Mero goes straight down head first. He looked just like those signs at the public pool that warn you not to paralyze yourself. I popped my ass off when the King says of Sable, "Look at her at ringside. Her expression never changes." Very true, Jerry. Thank you. And I have to say, I loved the way the 1-2-3 Kid worked that sleeper hold that he was putting on Mero going into the commercial break. His facial expressions really sold it. It was one of the most exciting sleeper holds I've ever seen. And then, there was just a big stretch in this match that just wasn't interesting at all. I hate to say that of the 1-2-3 Kid. At the commercial break after that, I was thinking to myself that the banter between Vince, the King, and Hunter at commentary has been the most entertaining part of this match. Then, predictably, Hunter Hearst Helmsley interferes to help the 1-2-3 Kid, but at the last second, Mero is able to reverse the Kid, getting the pin and the 3 count. Guys, I wish I could say that Marc Mero has lived up to my fond memories of him, but in this match, he was the only thing that wasn't interesting. Joe, what did you think of it?
Well, first I'll talk about the highlight of the match, which is Sable, or what they want to be the highlight, I should say. She looks good here, but she's no Sunny as far as I'm concerned. And Sable right now, like this look, because she has the full leather outfit now, she looks like a hot mom wearing a Halloween costume to me. Like that's what she looks like. There was a kid up front in a Phoenix Suns jersey. I don't know if you saw him, but he was more obsessed with Sable than Vince McMahon. I mean, he was taking pictures of her the whole time, did not take his eyes off of her. So that was pretty funny to watch. She probably had to file a restraining order on him after this show. The match was okay. It wasn't anything great. You could tell this was one of those matches where you could almost tell when they said, "All right, time to go home," because they really picked it up at the end to get that finish in. Which I liked the finish. I do think it keeps that story going. It made Hunter Hearst Helmsley look like a real asshole, and it keeps that story going. The Kid, Bartlett, you mentioned that sleeper hold. He put a couple sleeper holds on. The one where he jumps on the back. It seems to be a regular move for him now, and I really like it. I think it works well for him, being a smaller guy compared to just about everybody else he wrestles with or wrestles against. So I like that move. Like I said, I like the finish. Helmsley on commentary, I didn't really like too much. I didn't think he was very good, and that Grey Poupon accent is horrible. I didn't like that too much. I mean, this was okay. It seems like every Marc Mero match so far has been kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, to start off, I was happy to see the Kid here. It's been a while since we've actually seen him, so that was good to see. And then when he got in the ring, I thought it was kind of interesting. We had Triple H here at ringside, and the Kid did a bit of the game spitting the water mist into the air thing. I caught that, and I just thought it was kind of funny having Triple H right here at ringside watching it. And then the match started, and it was a little bit better for Marc Mero than the first 2 matches we've seen with him, but only a little bit, and that's mostly on him. The Kid did a pretty good job here, landing his high-flying moves and selling for Mark, but I don't know. There's just something about him that doesn't come off all that great in the ring. And Joe, you mentioned the Kid's sleeper hold, and I do like it, especially the first time. I thought the first time it worked really well when they did it. My only problem is they went back to this sleeper hold like 3 times during this match. And, Bartlett, you mentioned about midway through how the match just kind of started to drag. And I think that is during the point where we get these 3 sleeper holds. And it's no surprise that the match drags when you put in that many sleeper holds. And when you have 2 guys that should be in good conditioning like these 2, I don't think they should be wasting all this much time with sleeper holds, but they did. But they did finally, when they start to pick things up, I'll give Mark credit. He gave a really good-looking swinging backbreaker to the Kid that was pretty effective looking. And at that point, the King said that the Kid is in more trouble than LT. I don't know if you guys caught that.
Yeah.
This is kind of shocking because, LT was just little more than a year ago. He was here as a special guest at WrestleMania, wrestling Bam Bam. And we got King throwing a dig at him here because I'm thinking this had to be one of LT's crack cocaine scandals, I looked it up, and it was on May 4th, 96. Retired NFL star Lawrence Taylor was charged for attempting to buy crack cocaine from an undercover officer. So that brings me to my next point. Don't smoke crack. But once we get back to the match, the Wildman and the Kid, they wrap things up here with Hunter doing a little interrupting. But, I mean, it was a very forgettable match and mostly done to Marc Mero and these multiple sleeper holds. Kind of a disappointment, really.
I was thinking about this while I was listening to your descriptions of him, and would you guys say it's a fair comparison to say that right now Marc Mero is the definition of just the generic white meat babyface?
Yeah, I would say so, but the crowd's not really connecting at all with him yet.
They don't care.
I totally get, though, like when Jim Ross and Bruce Pritchard and those guys all say, like, you know, they had high hopes for him and it just didn't work out. Like, I get why they say that just by watching it, because it's like one of those things like, man, this guy does have I mean, let's face it, he's not Adam Bomb. I mean, he's better than people like that.
No, right. And he's got charisma.
Yeah, he's very athletic, has charisma. It's just, he's not connecting right now.
Yeah, I really can't wait to see if we see any noticeable difference when he switches to the Golden Gloves boxing gimmick later on. Well, guys, last week on Raw, Savio Vega challenged Stone Cold Steve Austin to a Caribbean strap match. In your house, Caribbean strap match. In your house. He repeated it 4 or 5 times for us. Jim Ross caught up with Ted DiBiase this past weekend on Superstars, and what a scene this was. DiBiase was yelling, which was to be expected, but Stone Cold Steve Austin was there with him, like standing in the background wearing almost like a tracksuit windbreaker and wraparound sunglasses. It was a really weird scene, and it almost made me wonder if this was another nod to the Iceman, Joe, that you told us about in the past.
Yeah, he had those killer loop sunglasses on.
Yeah.
Well, the $1 Million Man accepts the strap match challenge on behalf of Stone Cold Steve Austin with the added stipulation that if Savio Vega loses, he has to become the $1 Million Man's chauffeur. And with that, this angle has gone from hot to potentially really fucking stupid. And the plot of a Seinfeld episode in the blink of an eye. This was a brief segment, but it did deliver some pretty important news to us. So, Joe, what did you think of this new added stipulation to the whole strap match deal?
I agree with you. It went from hot to not. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I guess because Savio is the one who wanted a strap match that Austin and DiBiase decide, well, here's what we want in return. So I guess that's all this is, but yeah, it just seems really strange.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. This is clearly a little tick for tat here. If they're going to accept the match, they want something in return, but I am in complete agreement that we have something I have been super interested in and just turned it right on its head to where I don't really care about this angle. And it's mostly because of Ted DiBiase. He got involved here, shoved his face in here and ruined this feud. Well, hopefully didn't actually ruin it, but at least this segment.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, with this, it really bothered me that this is the turn we took, because I really thought we were on an upslope, just in general, upward trends were happening in what we were watching, and then now this. It reminds me a lot of the Crybaby match. If Savio loses, do we really expect him to fucking drive a limousine around or a show or whatever the fuck the car is? We expect him to tolerate that and to put up with it and to actually do it. Kind of like, we expect the loser of the Crybaby match to lay there and get diapered, which did end up happening. And
it did happen. It
fucking sucked. And it fucking sucked.
Yeah, the nice stipulation that we did not see was the 5 minutes alone with Jim Cornette.
Yeah.
For, who was that, Yoko?
Yeah.
That's a good idea, although I don't know if he would need 5 minutes, but this, yeah, you're right. It's bordering on the Crybaby thing, but nothing is that ridiculous.
Well,
Crybaby.
Yeah. No, that'll take the cake always.
Yeah.
The first thing that I thought of off the top of my head is, well, what about like the loser gets an extra 10 lashes with the strap or something like that. Something that would be easy to pull off right then and there. The payoff happens for the challenge.
Or has their wife stolen by Shawn Michaels?
Yeah. Propositioned at Homewrecker.
Speaking of, this has nothing to do with Chris Candido.
We come out of that segment and into our next match. The British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, with Jim Cornette and Diana Smith, defeat Make a Difference Fatu by pinfall in 10 minutes and 30 seconds. Fatu has ditched his David Putty 8-ball jacket in favor of a plain black leather one. How many Seinfeld references can we get in this episode? But before we go any farther with this match, let's get some information from that anonymous silhouette woman that we saw at the top of the show. She is there again in plain black silhouette, and she says that Shawn Michaels just smelled so wonderful and was so gorgeous that they ended up going to bed together. After returning from commercial, we get even more of this anonymous woman, and the match hasn't started yet. I can't help but wonder if Fatu has just been standing around in the ring during all of this, or what. The anonymous silhouette woman calls Shawn Michaels a homewrecker. He ruined her marriage, ruined her life, and she describes a really stupid scenario in which she willingly cheats on her husband with Shawn Michaels.
Yes, he's the homewrecker, not that she's a whore.
Not the married woman sleeping with a single man. No. Shawn is the problem here. But, apparently Shawn was the best she's ever had, so there's that. This went on for way too long, was really poorly acted, and finally, we got back in the ring to see the Bulldog coming out. But you know what? Before we see any action, let's rehash the interview from last week first. Finally, the fucking bell rings to get the match going, and right away, Fatu finds a reason to dance, especially after getting hit in the head, which apparently that's back on again. What was that a couple weeks ago? Was that Vader?
Yeah,
Vader hit him in the head, and he was not dancing, but now he is with the Bulldog. A lot of time gets wasted with the British Bulldog trying for a test of strength. Fatu resists that because Fatu is too smart. Once again, just not a whole lot of interesting action in the ring during the bulk of this match. There is a lot made out of the Bulldog's seeming distraction of the situation that he's found himself in. But then, just as we're breaking for commercial, we get a look at what Vince claims are Fatu's family members in the entryway. And they are dressed like 90s gangsters, like all black leather and sunglasses, almost like Run DMC. Returning from commercial, we get no further explanation about the family members other than that they are present. The Bulldog's reversal into a backwards crotch kick was the most impressive move in the entire match up to this point. And there is more action, but again, none of it is interesting until Fatu hits the Bulldog with a diamond cutter that Vince calls a bulldog. The Bulldog's power slam on Fatu to get the pin and the 3 count did look good. There's still no new information or elaboration on this whole family thing with Fatu, who these people are or what they're doing here, but there is a little bit of an altercation while Fatu is making his way out, so apparently this is not a happy family situation. Ryan, this match and its aftermath just had me saying what the fuck way too many times. What did you think of it?
I guess I should probably start with the shadowy woman. That segment was, you kind of already stated, poorly acted. And that is correct. It wasn't a terrible segment, even though it was badly acted. But the whole time, just the story of the fact that her husband was a former pro wrestler, and I couldn't help but assume that they are leaning into this Chris Candido Sonny situation here and just deciding they're going to kind of use it here on television.
Just ruin as many lives as possible.
Yeah, just who the fuck cares, right? Okay, that's done with, and then we go into the match. And the match commentary isn't really interested in it very much. From the get-go, they are just talking about Shawn Michaels through the entire thing. And you touched on it, Bartlett. The Bulldog tries to slam Fatu's head off the turnbuckle, and all of a sudden his impenetrable head strength has returned. He's dancing his ass off after getting slammed, and he does it on 2 occasions. The Bulldog later on tries to headbutt him, and Fatu no-sells it and kind of gives him the no, and I was a little surprised because we were just talking about Candido, and Vince didn't call the Bulldog an idiot for doing it like he did with Candido when he tried to hit Fatu's head. So,
oh gosh, yeah.
Since we're not really talking about the match, I'm going to go, the King brought up something as far as pop culture goes in 96 that was a big event. Donahue ended his 29-year career apparently this week or around this time. So that is very important date in the world of shitty television.
How dare you?
Yeah, well, hey, Donahue, anytime I see a giant microphone like the foam, I think of Donahue.
I think he might have been the one interviewing that shadow woman.
Yeah. He might have been. That would have made more sense. He's going to reveal a DNA results on who's the father here. Then, the match ends kind of as we expected. And then Fatu's family members that we've never seen before are out here and they appear to be upset. But Fatu, I believe, says something to the effect of, "You're not my family. The WWF is my family." And then he walks away and they're all pissed off. I don't know. It was a pretty forgettable match. Nothing too fantastic here, but nothing bad either. It was just kind of there.
The woman that her identity was being concealed for me was very boring. I think I found myself wanting to scoop the litter box about halfway through it. It was just too long.
Yeah.
It makes Shawn Michaels look pretty rapey, and this is your champion. You want this guy to be the face of the company. He's a babyface champion, and you're doing this. It just, I don't know. It's kind of crossing the line. I know that with his gimmick, doing the Diana Hart stuff is pretty good. That's more realistic, but this is just making him look like some kind of a serial rapist.
Yeah.
And with the match here, I do have to say the Fatu dancing, I do laugh every time I see it. It's just so fucking stupid that I can't not laugh at it.
I immediately think of Rikishi.
Yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. And the British Bulldog in this match, he's not going to lose. He's getting a title shot, in like 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
So they're going to build him up. So it's just predictable. But then we get this stuff with this family after, and you wonder, well, what's going on here? Are they going to maybe repackage Fatu or get him into some other program or something? I don't know. But so far, he's been nothing but a jobber, so I don't really care at this point.
Yeah, I'm kind of to that level with Fatu as well. So I don't know this for a fact. I'm just guessing, but I kind of want to say that Fatu's family here, I think that was Samu and the Tahitian Warrior. We talked about it briefly there whenever I was breaking down the match card for you for that Erie show on our episode last week. And the more I thought about it after watching this, I'm pretty sure the one guy was Samu, which would make the other guy probably whoever was being billed as the Tahitian Warrior. I'm not sure that's what his name will be here, but that's just guessing, going off the skin of my ass with that. So we'll see if I end up being right. But I don't remember this at all.
No, not at all. But I think you are correct there. That was the first thing I thought of, too, when I saw these two guys, was you going over that Erie match last week. Well,
we will see. But in the meantime, we're going to come out of that last match and go straight into our next match. The Bodydonnas, Skip and Zip with Sunny, defeat Techno Team 2000 by pinfall in 9 minutes and 15 seconds. My very first note, Techno Team 2000 look fucking ridiculous. Ridiculous. On the other hand, Sunny looks amazing. as always, though, and she knows it coming down. She knows it. The crowd knows it. There are quite a few fans in attendance wearing Sunny shirts. And things get going, and I had a hard time grasping this match or being engaged in it at all. My attention span has taken a beating so far tonight in this episode of Raw. And then what the fuck is this? Harvey Whippleman is there. Apparently taking notes on the officiating to present a report to WWF President Gorilla Monsoon. I mean, God knows I've had my problems with Earl Hebner. But I never thought that there was enough of an issue that Harvey Whippleman would need to be taking notes on the officiating in general. I don't know where this came from. This must be some Superstars stuff that we just aren't privy to. But
because Vince says that he's continuing to take notes. So
yeah,
it had to be something they're doing on Superstars.
Yeah. Well, to keep this random mishmash of shit going, we also get a view of the new Rockers backstage watching this match. Leif Cassidy did all right here. He was certainly less moronic and goofster-ish, or whatever the fuck they call him, than usual, but Marty Jannetty barely made any sense in the one sentence he was allowed to say. Back in the match, one of the Techno Team no-sells the hold he's in to swipe at Sunny. Dead center for the camera there. It's like he wasn't even being held at all. At one point, Zip was going for what I guess was supposed to be a fall-away elbow from the top rope, but instead just drove the back of his own head into the mat. That looked ugly. You could see it bounce. He tried to follow it up with another move after that and fucking hit it again before being tagged out. And finally, just a really disjointed tag chain move to get the pin and the 3 count for what was one of the worst clusterfuck matches I have ever seen in my entire life. Joe, please, do you have a more positive outlook on this than I did?
I do not at all. Techno Team 2000 is the drizzling shit. I mean, they're big guys. They're big guys, but man, they are just so unlikable, and they look like jobbers. You know, they look like the executioners.
Yeah.
It's just really bad. The match was not good. There was a Frankensteiner that Skip did on one of those guys that was just ugly. And it wasn't Skip's fault. It was one of those things you'd see on those WrestleBotch social media pages. The guy just took a little too long to finish the move, I guess. But yeah, it was really bad, and again, we're just getting, Sunny is the highlight of tag team wrestling in 1996, and she's not even a wrestler. It's almost like a missed opportunity for them. They should have had her doing other things to promote the brand. I'm sure Regis Philbin would have loved to have hosted Sunny on Regis and Kathy Lee, or the late night stuff, or I know that she has said that she turned down Playboy back in the day, but maybe they could have had her do something else, with all the attention that she's getting. And I did read, this was the first time I have read where it is there are rumors that Sunny is the most downloaded woman on the internet. Already in May of 96. So yeah, it just got me thinking there.
I mean, when this thing started out, I was thinking, where the fuck did they dig up Techno Team 2000? Yeah. It's been like a year since we've seen them. We haven't seen them in quite a while, and then here they are. Absolutely fucking ridiculous. I almost did these guys as jobbers, so I'm going to run through my thought process here a little bit. They were clearly being treated as jobbers. But there's 2 things that kept me from doing them as Jobber of the Week. And one is they are a legitimate tag team. They have costumes. They have a name. You know what I mean? Like, they're not your typical jobber Mike Bell and Alex Perdeau type of put together tag team. So there's that. But then 2, when I looked them up, they don't have much for me to really talk about. They are former football, I believe it was Kentucky. They played college football together, decided to get into wrestling, wrestled for the WWF from 94 to 96, and they're going to leave in June, I believe. The next time we see them on Raw is going to be their last time they wrestle, basically. And then they're done. One of the guy kind of wrestles at WCW for another year. The other guy just completely gets done with wrestling after that. So there's really not much to cover on them.
With them like meeting in Kentucky, did they ever have any Smoky Mountain run at all or no?
No, it seemed like their very first thing was being here on WWF. Really.
Wow.
When we saw them like a year and a half ago first.
Yeah.
I thought I remembered hearing somewhere that one of them was the son of, Bill Watts? Was it his Cowboy Bill Watts' son?
Well, that's probably the one that tried to then go on to WCW, but didn't really make it too far.
So this may have been Jim Ross's fault.
Yeah.
With that connection.
I go over all that information because I don't have much to really add to this match. It was a piss poor match. We get the split screen with the Rockers and a bloodshot Marty Jannetty telling us, yes, man, wake up or die right. I had to look that up. I guess that's a World War II saying. I don't know why he was deciding to say that there, but it's a World War II saying. And then Zip, when he did that drop elbow off the top rope, he bounced twice. I gave an audible, ooh, when I saw it. That was bad. I also gave the same sound with the Skips Frankensteiner a few minutes later. This was a bad match with a lot of ugly spots.
Yeah. Less said, the better on that one. So we are going to move along to hopefully greener pastures here. That being Jim Ross backstage with Jim Cornette and Vader. Let's take a look at Vader busting up Yokozuna's leg. But coming up at the next In Your House, Yokozuna is going to be back to take on Vader. Cornette cuts a decent enough promo to get us ready for that match, but then Vince just has to have Jim Ross pass on a question about what Cornette thinks about Vader's upcoming match against Duke the Dumpster Droese next week on Raw. And of course, Jim Cornette has a dim view of that, with Vader posing and grunting and flexing the whole time. Back at the ring, Marlena and Goldust are coming down to join commentary. Marlena looks amazing, and Vince really sells his discomfort, especially when Goldust blatantly gets in Vince's face for no reason and just keeps it there for a few seconds. Goldust is going to be there on commentary. But before we move along, Joe, just briefly, what did you think of that small package backstage that we got from Cornette and Vader?
Nothing, really. I thought nothing of it. I don't give a shit about Duke the Dumpster at all. So this was a total waste for me.
Yeah, kind of the same here. This was a bit of filler spot for Cornette. He showed up, cuts a quick promo on Yokozuna, cuts a quick promo on Dumpster. I guess they were, fine in what he did there, but definitely just filler material here.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. We come out of that promo and into our final match of the night. The Undertaker with Paul Bearer defeats Owen Hart with Jim Cornette by pinfall in 9 minutes and 15 seconds. Goldust is being fantastically creepy with Vince McMahon. I loved every second of that. And we get the news that Goldust and The Undertaker are going to be having a casket match at the pay-per-view. Goldust, upon hearing that, tries to leave, but that's just when The Undertaker's music hits for him to make his entrance. And as Goldust makes his way back to commentary, seeing as how he can't leave and get past The Undertaker at the same time, I popped when Goldust said, "Tell them to cut," during The Undertaker's entrance, and then again when Goldust was up on his chair like he saw a mouse in a cartoon. That was fantastic. I loved everything about Goldust here up to this point. He was really milking it, this whole situation, and it looked great. In the ring, Owen was doing a good job of working his cowardly weasel gimmick. But at commentary, Goldust is working his gimmick twice as hard. It was almost distracting how much attention I was giving Goldust and how much attention he was drawing from me with the things that he was saying. Like when he said he can think of some incredible things to do with that urn. Like, what are you going to do with that, man? Like, what could you possibly do with it?
It's pretty wide. I mean,
we cut to commercial just as Goldust gets up to go accost Paul Bearer, who sells disgust and confusion perfectly. Paul Bearer ends up running away from the ring, and so far, more focus has been put upon things outside of the ring than the actual match going on. Our cameras have been showing us almost everything step by step at the outside between Goldust and Paul Bearer, Goldust and Vince McMahon, Goldust and Marlena, and we've been getting just quick hits of what's going on in the ring. And really, that's the biggest takeaway here. The match in the ring was almost a side note to this story going on the outside. The work that was visible from both The Undertaker and Owen looked decent, as was to be expected here. It just got lost in the story going on outside. By the time The Undertaker finally hits the Tombstone Piledriver to get the pin and the 3 count, I couldn't tell you how much real action happened in the match. After the pin, we get Paul Bearer coming back down to the ring, except this time he's pushing a casket. It is not the double wide, double deep casket. Instead, it is a solid gold casket with a Hollywood star on it, and Goldust and Marlena freak out and run away. That's going to be on the next In Your House pay-per-view, and we get a final shot of Paul Bearer holding up the urn while The Undertaker does his kneeling salute under dimming lights, and we fade to black. This felt like a fitting end to this episode. It was kind of schizophrenic, kind of confusing. Ryan, what did you think of this match and the way that Raw ended tonight?
I'm going to start with when Goldust came down to the commentary table. And I absolutely love the way he sat down next to Vince McMahon, started making the kissing motion right next to Vince's cheek while he's rubbing his back and shoulders. It was fucking great, and Vince looked extremely uncomfortable, and he kept on saying, "Can you stop doing that?" It was really great. Way to go, Goldust. And as you said, the way he continued to play up his fear of The Undertaker after Vince informed him that the In Your House match is going to be a casket match. This was really the first time that we saw Goldust kind of get out of that very slow, methodical, creepy voice, and he actually was scared, it seemed. That was kind of cool to see, and I thought some really good acting from Goldust there. And once the match started, it was a little bit of a shame to see Owen kind of receive the jobber treatment. You know, I love The Undertaker, it's against him, but Owen, we didn't even really hear his entrance. He was just kind of already in there waiting for The Undertaker. So kind of the jobber treatment here. But no surprise, once the match actually started, it really wasn't your normal jobber treatment. You know, at the beginning, Owen tries to chop down The Undertaker using some blows. The Taker's no-selling it, and he starts tossing Owen around like a rag doll. But as you mentioned, Bartlett, at that point, we kind of turn our attention to Goldust commentary and the outside. Goldust, in the matter of moments, changed from being scared to drooling over The Undertaker. You know, talking about how he likes his dark clamminess or whatever. I don't know. It was pretty bizarre. That's when he mentioned the things he would do to the urn, and then starts unbuttoning Paul Bearer's shirt that sends Paul Bearer running off. And I agree, they started to ignore the match. It was kind of this backdrop to what we were seeing happen with Goldust on the outside, but everything we saw happen in the ring looked pretty solid. The story seemed to be Owen is going to work on The Undertaker's leg a bit, tries to go in for the submission, but of course The Undertaker isn't going to take that. He grabs Owen by the throat, tosses him out of the ring, ends up landing the tombstone and gets the victory here. So I thought in all, this was a pretty solid match. We had a lot of good storytelling here. We're furthering this, or I guess starting this feud with Goldust and The Undertaker, and we finish with Paul Bearer coming down with this solid gold casket. So I thought a really solid way to end Raw and ramp things up for Goldust versus Undertaker.
Yeah, a lot of shenanigans going on here.
Yeah.
Not much of a match, which is really disappointing to me because this would have been a really good match. There was a point in the match where Undertaker choke slammed Owen Hart out of the ring, which got me to say, holy shit, that was nice. Goldust is awesome on commentary. I really enjoyed that. I kind of got a little bit lost though, because he started, trying to molest Paul Bearer, and then he grabs Owen Hart's butthole, basically.
Yeah.
Owen shoves him away. Like there was just too much of that going on. I mean, I kind of understand what they were doing. That it seems like Goldust is just afraid of caskets. He's not even really afraid of the Undertaker.
Yoko.
Yeah, he's just afraid of caskets. It got me thinking a little bit because Ryan, you said this is like the start of it. I wonder if they're just not comfortable yet with the matches that Mankind and Undertaker have been having, or is Mankind going to get involved in this casket match? So that's what I'm kind of looking to see.
I'm going completely off memory here, okay? So I don't know this for sure, but I believe before this casket match happens, so maybe next week or the week after, there is going to be a point where Goldust and Undertaker and Paul Bearer are in the ring, and they're kind of doing a little bit of promos back and forth with each other. And Mankind comes down and kind of helps Goldust beat up The Undertaker and like throw him into the gold casket. Mm-hmm. There's a shot of that really in my mind, but it wasn't in the actual match. It was the setup for the match.
Yeah. Which also makes me wonder, is Goldust fully healed yet? I wonder if maybe they're... Yeah. So yeah, there are a couple things there got me thinking, where are they going with some of this stuff? And Goldust is so good right now that they're kind of bouncing him around to different things, Warrior, Undertaker, it started with Razor Ramon, Savio Vega a little bit in there. So hopefully, to
his credit, all big stars.
Yeah, hopefully they'll give him some sort of a somewhat long-term program with somebody, because he's working really well right now and really getting comfortable with that gimmick. And speaking of that, they mentioned, I think it was Vince that mentioned Dennis Rodman. This is when Dennis Rodman appeared in a wedding dress to his book signing in Chicago. So that's why they were saying Dennis Rodman's trying to be like Goldust, dressing in drag. Yeah, that's when Dennis Rodman had his Bad As I Wanna Be autobiography in 1996. So nice pop culture callback there.
He also bleached his hair blonde. So there's some more evidence that he's trying to look like Goldust.
Yeah. Yeah, the one thing that I learned about Goldust here in this match is that I don't quite care for him whenever he's doing the chicken shit heel thing, getting up and running away. I know that sometimes that is a handy device to use during a match whenever you want to milk a little bit of heat and draw a little bit of a count before he gets back in. And there are things that you can do with that to make the match more interesting. But I think I prefer the Goldust that is just in your face, dripping bizarre arrogance and saying creepy shit to you. I think that's my preferred Goldust heel persona, as opposed to the just running away from everything. But, as I said, that was the end of our episode, so we're going to take it on over now to highlights and lowlights. Joe, please go first.
Not a lot of highlights here at all for me. I think the highlight for me, if I had to pick, would be Goldust's commentary during that last match. And I also like that they gave him a gold headphones and mic. That was nice. And my low light, I have to go with Techno Team 2000. They fucking suck.
We're going to be following along the same lines here. My highlight is not a whole lot to pick from, but I'm going to go with the end of the Undertaker Owen Hart match, just the kind of way they wrap things up and set up the Undertaker Goldust in your house match, as well as just kind of all the antics Goldust was pulling at the end of Raw here, I thought was the highlight. And low light, again, complete agreement. The Bodydonnas versus Techno Team 2000 match, just the drizzling shits from bell to bell. I can at least give Techno Team 2000 a little bit of credit, realizing that they should hang up their boots after the WWF cut them in 96 here. So definitely the low light.
Yeah, we're going 3 for 3 on this. Highlight Goldust's commentary, specifically low light. Everything going on in that tag team match, right on down to old Harvey Whippleman. Just such a mishmash of bullshit going on all at the same time. All right. Well, guys, I mean, this was a bit of a hard episode. We've gotten spoiled. I mean, there's been a little bit of backsliding, but I don't know about you, but this was a hard episode for me to watch.
For me, it wasn't exactly hard. It was just a lot of mediocre. Like, there was nothing that was just absolutely, I hated it, I wanted to kill myself type of stuff. But it was just a lot of forgettable, terrible, or not terrible, but a lot of forgettable, boring stuff going on tonight.
I agree. And just seeing Owen Hart be put in that position was tough to watch, too. Not jobbed out, but just, I don't know.
He did get the jobber treatment at the beginning, though. No music, just waiting for the Undertaker.
Yeah. In that scenario specifically, it was like Owen Hart was the side note of the side note. Because the match was the side note to the outside, and in the match, Owen Hart was the side note to the Undertaker. But now that we've successfully moved past some of the sad shit, Joe, do you happen to have contemporary wrestling news from on and around May 6, 1996 for us?
Yeah, there's a good amount of news this week. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about some of this. I'll start with Dave Meltzer from The Observer. I will start with his only comment on this particular episode of Raw. He's talking about Harvey Whippleman coming out and taking notes.
What the fuck?
He seems to think this storyline with Harvey Whippleman is leading to Harvey becoming a referee at some point.
Okay.
We'll see what happens there. In other news, Shawn Michaels pinned Stone Cold Steve Austin in a house show match, which Meltzer gave 3.5 stars. That would be a fun match to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially at this time.
Razor Ramon is booked to do an upcoming house show with Goldust, and Diesel is scheduled for the main event at the MSG house show on May 19th, and that will be it for those guys. They are done. We will not see them on TV anymore.
Can't wait to talk about after that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, here's another thing I'm sure you couldn't wait for. Jim Hellwig, his Ultimate Creations company and Titan Sports have joined together in a business partnership where Titan will promote the Warriors gym in Phoenix and use it as a WWF training center.
Oh, man.
And also promote his other merchandise, including his comic book.
I'd like to read that just once.
Yeah, this whole thing with Vince and the Warrior is just a disaster. It's just a total disaster. I'm going to read this next piece in Dave Meltzer's words. The Punisher, who I believe his real name is Ben Buchanan, and Dwayne Johnson, the son of Rocky Johnson and grandson of Peter Maivia, were both signed to developmental contracts. The developmental deal basically pays the guys $300 or so per week to augment their income while gaining experience, which will most likely be in the USWA.
I have a feeling one is going to succeed. The other is going to fall to the wayside.
Yeah, one will be making more than $300 a week at some point.
The other might be making less at some point.
Who did you say the other one was?
Ben Buchanan, otherwise known as the Punisher.
Okay. Yeah, don't remember him at all.
Yeah. Jim Neidhart, remember him?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He will be returning for some shows. It is either a favor for Stu Hart or basically a favor because he provided a deposition in a lawsuit in Southern California that involved two ex-WWF wrestlers, Tatanka and Jimmy Del Rey.
Oh, a little bit of grease money there.
Yeah. In regard to the situation reported last week with Sonny coming back from the European tour a few days early, it is being reported that this was a company decision now and not hers. So a little bit of correction on the information from last week. And speaking of Sonny and that turd that was floating around last week, the 1-2-3 Kid will be out of action for a while.
He got E. coli.
No, he did not.
Oh.
Unfortunately, that probably would have been better. He showed up in no condition to work at a recent Superstars taping.
Ooh.
And will be out for several weeks. Dave Meltzer goes on to say that the Kid may have suffered another concussion, but I don't think that's the case because I remember hearing Sean Waltman talk about how he was not at the curtain call because he was in rehab.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Kid's having a rough time here. He's probably going to be going to rehab soon, so we won't see him for a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's no surprise. Tonight, he did have a goatee, which is the sure sign of someone in trouble.
Someone in trouble.
And there's still, what do we have, like one more in Des Moines or wherever they are, Iowa?
Yeah, Sioux City, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, might not see him after that.
Well, as long as it gets him away from the $1 Million Man, I'm okay with rehab.
Sure, yeah. On the Goldust and Warrior match that we all loved so much from that In Your House show, apparently they were hoping that Goldust could work in a limited capacity, but that was not the case. They were hoping for the segment to go about 5 minutes, but it ended up going 11 minutes and actually cut some time off of that Godwins versus Bodydonnas match. And also, the Vader versus Razor Ramon match was lengthened before they knew about Goldust's injury because they wanted a second strong match on the show, and they knew Warrior was not going to provide that.
So why did they try so hard to bring him back?
Well, Warrior or Ultimate Creations, brother.
And, you know, after I said that, I thought about it. He gets a fucking pop every time he comes out. The crowd fucking loves him. So.
Yep, they eat it up.
Yep.
Last piece of news here. I just want to read some of the house show lineups that they're going to be having in June. Mostly going to consist of matches of Shawn Michaels versus Goldust.
Huh.
Vader versus the Warrior.
Ugh.
Undertaker versus Mankind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Ahmed Johnson versus the British Bulldog.
Oh.
Marc Mero versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley. The Bodydonnas versus the Smoking Guns.
Hmm.
Yeah, that could work.
Savio Vega versus Owen Hart.
Huh.
That would be good to watch.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Well, you know what would not be good to watch? The Godwins versus the New Rockers.
Ooh. Yeah.
And that is all.
Way to end it on a down note. Thank you, Joseph. Illuminating as always. And that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know how much cooler they would be if they became Rawheads like you and me. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on May 13th, 1996, with matches featuring Justin Hawk Bradshaw, Duke the Dumpster Drosy, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.